This is the steering rack that Ford used on the early Capris and Escorts, except this didn't come off a Capri or an Escort or any Ford. It came off a Lotus. And even on our worst days bashing Lotus, we'd probably still have to admit that Lotus do steering better than most, maybe the best. But while I was making this all purdy, and it took some doing, I found out that it's not even made by Ford or Lotus. Let me show you. It seems obvious looking back, but the chassis was so bad that the steering rack just blended in, despite being the only non-rusty thing on there. Rust blindness affects more and more classic car enthusiasts every day, but it doesn't have to be this way. Just €2 a month helps me fight rust where it counts and gets you access to behind the scenes content. So sign up now, and if you can't, then please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but helps place videos in recommended feeds. Fast forward a few years, and this is the rack after sitting in a dusty loft. It actually looks better for just not being surrounded by the chassis, and these things were filled with oil, and maybe grease too, but oil, and this one must have been spec'd with the optional self-lubricating feature. So getting it cleaned off is the first order of biz. Okay, listen to this. Burman and Sons Limited was a company that manufactured Burman Douglas steering gear. Their worm and nut design was fitted to pre-war vehicles such as the Ford 8, the Ford Prefect, the Bedford C8, and heavy trucks and off-road vehicles both pre- and post-war. In its day, Burman Douglas steering gear was regarded as a quality feature of a car's chassis specification. The company also manufactured motorcycle gearboxes during part of its history. And that is basically the entirety of the Wikipedia entry for Burman and Sons, which seems kind of unfair. I mean, what happened? But wait, what's this? The smaller word to the side. Burmel. That was the Birmingham Aluminium Casting Company that dated back to the 1890s. Those guys were pioneers of the use of aluminium in manufacturing and were making slick alu tennis rackets over 100 years ago. They obviously cast the main housing of this rack, which means they produced the whole rack outer body because the aluminium is cast onto the steel tube. So before asking where the rack and pinion machine parts came from, Lotus were getting their rack from Ford, who were getting it from Burman, who were getting it from Burmel, and all for a steering rack. There isn't a millimetre of play in this rack, anywhere. The rack and pinion are smooth and taut. The track rod ends are pre-loaded and supple. The UJ linkage has absolutely no slop, and the track rod ends are so good they're difficult to move, even despite the perished boots. And as I look closer, I notice that 3 of the 4 mounting bolts are nearly new, and there's blue paint under the black. This has to have been rebuilt, and not too long before the car was laid up 30 years ago. This video was supposed to be a full rebuild, but I'm not going to take a perfectly good component apart and replace everything just because. This is time I can spend on something that does need complete overhaul. So I'm taking a bold move and sealing it up for the quickest, most effective stripping method at my disposal. I left the rack over the weekend, and you can see the oil weeping out where I opened the cover plates, and where I opened the boots, and where the aluminium is cast onto the steel. Wait, what? I think the way to fix this might be to braze it, but I don't have the equipment for that, and I'm not going to start messing with sealants here. I'd rather degrease it, hit it with paint, and revisit it later when I do rebuild the whole thing. While it's quick and easy right now though, I'll clean up the casting a little, prep for the future. See, one of the best things about having a car that you're in love with is the growing sense that this is a forever project, and not everything has to be perfect right now. It's the mental health gift that'll keep on giving. I'm just saving this for recycling. Yeah, scrap metal values are up. I'm taking off the part number, as well as any rough casting, but I'm leaving the two bygone names. For some weird sentimental reason, I think they deserve to be here. I don't know which way to finish the aluminium. I could get a mini drill and some jeweler's rouge and polish it. I could paint it silver, or get some specialist bare alloy lacquer and go that way. The jury's out, but I'm leaning towards polishing because it's something I can do even after the rest is painted. A pair of brackets slide inside the chassis and carry captive nuts to secure the rack. Outside of those chassis brackets are spacers that shim the rack out, and there are 4 of those, 2 on each side. Put together, each pair are 4mm thick, and I figure I can make them one piece each and in something that won't rust. But first, some uprated rack mount bushes from P&M Parts. These had to be trimmed slightly, but they're known to be a no-brainer upgrade even if you're going 100% factory on everything else. Now, I'm not sure if aluminium would be appropriate here, but I don't have any anyway, so it's stainless steel time. I got way too much heat into my TIG welds and destroyed the nuts, the first pair anyway. They're the correct mild steel nuts, by the way, in case you think I'm playing with the fastener strength. After a little redesign, the brackets came good, and turns out the spacers are just a few grams each lighter than the originals, and the mounting brackets are literally half the weight of the mild steel ones. That's nice. If you've been keeping track, there's a short list of stuff that is still yet to do. I haven't fully understood the rack yet, mainly because I haven't rebuilt it, but I need to establish whether the steel cover plates are steel for economy or because they bear load. I'd like to reproduce them in aluminium. I still have to add oil, check the preload on the tie rods, and polish the main casting. But I mean, other than that, this is completely restored. The chassis is starting to look exciting. Just a few more logistical hurdles with the through-hull coolant pipes and something I'm backtracking on, the gear linkage, and then I'll bolt the wheels on. I did try to breeze past the collection of steel rods that make up the shift linkage, but then I saw Richard King's lightweight 911 and the itch got too strong. I can't show you a finished set because I don't have, but you'll see where I'm going here. Thank you to new patrons Martin Mimna, Joel Nickerson, Dylan Gruel and Ryan Neville, and to all Soups patrons who collectively let me do these things. If you'd like to see some of the back end and thinking behind these works, the link to support options is below. I'm off to clean these rods up and repaint, then it's time to bolt more things on. Thanks for watching, really appreciate any type of support. Hit like, share with the group, subscribe, and until next time, stay stuck in and good luck.